What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition Power Gamers Tactics Room. I'm your host, Bill Brian Bafflestone, and today we are having the first episode of my video response series, where I respond to videos created by other producers. Today I wanted to talk about a recent video that I saw from Roll for Initiative, called Why I Don't Optimize Characters. I have included the link to the original video below. Going forward, I will be paraphrasing her arguments, so apologies in advance if I got any of it wrong. I did the best I could and tried to do it intellectually honestly. And I want to thank her for bringing this up because it's a question that I deal with quite a bit, I think. And I think that she brings up a lot of good points and frames it in a way that makes it very suitable for discussion. That said, I don't fully agree. So allow me to explain, and let's jump right in. So the first thing to note is that there is a thing in Dungeons & Dragons called the Stormwind Fallacy, which implies that role-playing and optimization or power gaming are mutually exclusive, and this of course is untrue. And it deserves a mention immediately because a lot of viewers are going to think of it immediately and want to point that out, and I just want to account for it here and say that it deserves a bit more of a deeper discussion than simply facilely quoting a fallacy. So let's dive in. The first argument made by Roll for Initiative is that she doesn't optimize characters mechanically because she prefers to start with a character concept, which can sometimes be inspired by a mechanic, and will accordingly choose suboptimal abilities that are more in line with the role-playing concept. So holistically, I'm on board with this, but not fully. It's true that in any game system, there is always one ultimate build. And as these words come out of my mouth, I realize that may be something of a controversial statement, but I stand by it. There is always an ultimate build in any game that defeats all others. And for me, quite honestly, a lot of the fun of playing games is to discover this build. That's why I play a lot of different gaming systems. However, once played, yes, it does become boring. Being invincible is boring. And one must deviate from it to enjoy a different playstyle. That said, in my view, deviation from the single most powerful build does not equal non-optimization. Dungeons & Dragons is still about rolling dice in the relatively unforgiving D20 system, even during the interaction and exploration phases of the game. So even if you're pursuing a role-playing build, the mechanics must be optimized or you can't achieve your goals in any phase of the game. I don't care how well you role-play it, you still need to make your persuasion roll, guys. Ultimately, therefore, even combat suboptimal character concepts should be optimized for your goals. You have to make choices from scarce options. And since D&D is a story that isn't told but is written, mutually between the DM and the players, there's no reason a good role player can't justify a more powerful ability over another one. Sorry, guys. There's so much of a character goes beyond the mechanics and is in how you approach it, and that doesn't mean that you can't take good mechanics. Note also that this requires the cooperation of the DM to curate your encounters to your weaker power level. He needs to dial it back if you can't kill things. As monsters get harder, role players necessarily need to take a step back to survival. Right? One has to be alive to role play, and combat survival is dominant over role play in combat scenarios. The second argument that Roll for Initiative makes is that death is okay, and she enjoys the emotional rush of failure. All I can say is that I strongly disagree here, and this is the clearest indicator that we come from wildly different perspectives, and that's totally cool. I'm not casting judgment here, but as an observation, I do want to point out that I really disagree with this perspective. To me, death is not okay. TPKs are not okay. They are not fun, any more than losing in sports is fun. I mean, yes, you look for silver linings when you lose, but losing's not fun, at least not to me. Now, one experiences the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. I mean, it's a saying for a reason. pretty sure I'm not alone in that perspective. We gotta face facts. D20 games are lethal by design. They're just so variable relative to 2-dice games. And optimization is more necessary in an unforgiving game system or dice system like D20. The third argument that Roll for Initiative makes is that fully optimized characters are boring to play because they can't be challenged. Now, I disagree with this as well. Of course, you like to be pushed, as auto wins are boring. But this is on the DM. It shouldn't be the goal of players to be suboptimal, in combat particularly, but also in interaction and exploration. And the fact is that no player, even wielding the ultimate build, can beat the DM. The DM has limitless resources. He can always win through attrition. The fourth argument made is that repeating optimized attacks over and over is boring to play. Again, hard disagree. Dunking is always fun, even though you're going to make it 90% of the time. Watching Steph Curry drain threes never gets old. In other words, winning the combat phase with your best punch is never boring. Your DM is trying to counter. He's throwing haymakers as well. It's not always going to work, but when it doesn't work, it should be on the DM adjusting his monsters and their tactics, and not the player. Combat is not about being fun and non-boring. It's about survival. You don't get style points. Now, I do agree that in the exploration and interaction phases of the game, doing the same things over and over are boring if overly repetitive, but not in combat. And, ultimately it's on the DM to throw wrinkles into your main tactic, and not the PCs to self-sabotage with a bad plan A and no plan B. The fifth point made by Roll for Initiative is that power gamers want to win Dungeons and Dragons, implying that they are bad, while suboptimal tactics are just about having fun, and thus are good. Again, I strongly disagree with this view. Power gamers want to succeed at the goals we pursue in Dungeons and Dragons, and those goals don't necessarily have anything to do with winning or lording it over others or beating people. Right? This is a pejorative framing of the dynamic that is technically an appeal to the Stone Fallacy. Sorry. It's built on an epistemology of power dynamics that seeks to label views as belonging to the outgroup, and thus, you can marginalize them without honestly considering them, and I have no tolerance for that. And two, it is based on the unspoken premise that winning is a negative goal, because apparently this disrupts or degrades the group harmony and the total social utility, that is, the overall fun had by the table. Again, I don't agree. I'm an economist, and I understand someone has to put food on the table. Now, it's true. That's taken for granted. And once food is on the table, then others are going to criticize him for the very competitiveness and the focus on productivity that feeds them. But we need to remember, role-playing is a luxury reserved for those who survive combat. It really is. And it's easy to forget, and doing so is a massive error. I think that, no other way to put it, it's basically ungrateful. It really is. All role-playing is predicated on surviving combat. So final comments, a couple of quotes. Plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. That's Eisenhower. And Mike Tyson contributed, everyone has a plan until they're punched in the mouth. And I have found that both of those things are true. No level 1 through 20 armchair build survives contact with the enemy, survives contact with the game, survives getting punched in the mouth. Because every game is different based on the dungeon master and also the players involved. And it's a mutual process. One starts at low levels, and as you level, you start to adapt to what the DM has been throwing at you, and he starts to adapt to what the party members can do as well. So the PCs and the DM mutually build the world and the game. And this is optimization, and this is a huge part of the fun. I think it is a mistake to hand wave it away as inferior to role-playing. Personally, I don't like dying, and the lethality inherent in D20 systems calls for strong optimization even for PCs who are not pursuing the ultimate build. Role-playing, again, is predicated on surviving combat. And 3, real talk. No one likes the shirker. No one likes that person who just chit-chats and socializes and doesn't pull their weight because they pursue to do other things, pursue personal pursuits. Right? Only the shirker and their shirkin colleagues like that person. And I don't like to be that person, because in my experience, no one really likes that person, regardless of their entertainment value and regardless of what is said to their face. Everyone should be having fun, not just the role player. So pull your weight. I don't think that's too much to ask. So that's it. That's my response to Roll for Initiative and their video, Why I Don't Optimize Characters. I, again, really appreciate that they made the video. Check them out. They're a small channel, although 8 times the number of subscribers that I got, so they're clearly doing something right. Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments. Regardless, thank you so much for watching. This has been the Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition Power Gamers Tactics Room. I'm your host, Bill Brian Bafflestone. See you next time.